church history has been stolen from us. Somewhere along the way, we stopped valuing it. We started treating the past like if it was irrelevant, as if the faith that we have today appeared out of nowhere. But the truth is that we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us, men and women who held the torch of the gospel even in turbulent times. One of those figures is Jonathan Edwards. If you know the name, chances are you've probably heard of Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. He's often painted as this fire and brimstone preacher, all wrath and judgment and no grace and love. But that is not the full picture. Edwards was a man that was captivated by the beauty of the glory of Christ, and much of his writing reflects that. So today I want to recommend you two books that together give us a fuller picture of who Edwards really was. First, there is A Short Life of Jonathan Edwards by George Marsden. And second, The Excellency of Christ, one of Edwards' most powerful sermons where he explores the majesty and mercy of Jesus Christ. If you want an easy entry point into the life of Jonathan Edwards, then Marsden is a great resource. It's concise, readable, and it cuts through a lot of the misconceptions about Edwards. He presents Edwards not just as a preacher, but as a man, as a pastor, as a thinker who is devoted to seeing Christ in all areas of his life. Marsden gives us a balanced view of Edwards. He doesn't ignore his flaws, and he also doesn't reduce him to a caricature of a preacher. One thing I learned about Edwards is how countercultural his faith was, even in Puritan times. He wasn't shaped by the trends of his time or the religious apathy that many of his parishioners had. He was rooted in something deeper. He was motivated by a deep sense of wonder of God and his word, to the point that he would spend hours every single day studying the word, reading the word, memorizing it. And if you ask me, that's something that we need today and desperately. In a world where so much of Christianity bends to the pressures of the world around us, we need a faith that stands firm in the scriptures, in sanctity, in the truth that the gospel presents, and doesn't bend to the whims of this world. Like Edwards, we must be unwavering in our commitment and devotion to the supremacy of Christ. One thing that I think that Marsden does well is placing Edwards within the historical context of his time. He contrasts him with figures like Benjamin Franklin, another huge figure of his time, who held very different worldviews than that of Edwards. Franklin embraced very liberal Enlightenment theology, while Edwards stayed rooted in the Puritan theology, and he saw the world through the lens of God's mercy and sovereignty. Marsden ensures us that we see Edwards as a man who sees the Great Awakening unfolding before him, and he gets to contribute to that great revival here in the United States. But we also see him wrestle with some of the excesses that abounded within the Great Awakening, and ultimately coming to the conclusion that revival, true revival, is God's work and not man's. Now, like I said earlier, Edwards gets a lot of heat. If you ask most people about him, they'll refer you to Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God, which, albeit, is a very difficult text to hear. And if read on its own, if that was the only thing you read of Edwards, you would think that he was one of these like fire and brimstone, all judgment preachers. But that's only half the story. It's unfair for us to create this image of him, this caricature of him, without thinking about the other things that he wrote. Because if Sinners shows the weight of the wrath of God, the judgment of God, then the excellency of Christ shows us his beauty and his mercy. This is one of Edwards' most powerful works, because in it he attempts to try to capture the fullness of the beauty of Christ. He doesn't just try to focus on Christ's power. It's not about his reign or his divinity or his loftiness. He also highlights Christ's gentleness, his humility, his willingness to suffer for sinners. He brings together these two seemingly opposite truths, that Christ is both the lion and the lamb. He is sovereign, and yet he stoops low to save. Here's one quote from Edwards' work that beautifully displays the twofold nature of Christ. He says, "There is an admirable conjunction of diverse excellencies in Jesus Christ. There meet him in infinite highness and infinite condescension. Christ, as he is God, is infinitely great and high above all. He is higher than the kings of the earth, for he is King of kings and Lord of lords. He is higher than the heavens and higher than the highest angels of heaven. So great is he that all men, all kings and princes are as worms of the dust before him. All nations are as the drop of the bucket and the light dust of the balance. Yea, and angels themselves are nothing before him. But Christ is also one of infinite condescension. None are so low or inferior, but Christ's condescension is sufficient to take notice of them. This is the paradox of Christ, his supreme majesty as God, and his profound humility to see us in the dust and stoop down and meet us there. This contrast between his highness and his condescension is at the heart of why Christ is worthy to be praised. It is the crucified King that ushers in victory and eternal life. Now, regarding the power of Christ's humility and his victory over evil, Edwards writes this: Christ never so effectually bruised Satan's head as when Satan bruised his heel. The weapon with which Christ warred against the devil and obtained a most complete victory and glorious triumph over him was the cross. The instrument and weapon with which he thought he had overthrown Christ and brought on him shameful destruction. In his last sufferings, Christ sapped the very foundations of Satan's kingdom. He conquered his enemies in their own territories and beat them with their own weapons. The cross, which looked like certain defeat, was actually the pathway to Christ's victory over Satan, sin, and death. It reminds us that God's ways are higher than our ways, and the mystery of Christ unfolded before us in a way we never would have thought. His strength was revealed in what the world saw as weakness. And on that third day, that stone rolled away and he conquered death and left that grave empty. Both of these books, A Short Life of Jonathan Edwards and The Excellency of Christ, are well worth reading. One gives you a clearer picture of the man, and the other one a clearer picture of his view of Christ. If you've ever only read Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God, it's time to expand our view of Edwards. His vision of Christ was not just a vision of wrath. It was about beauty, mercy, and majesty. I'll have links to both books in the description below if you want to check them out. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever read or heard of either one of these two works and what your thoughts are. If you found any value in this video whatsoever, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I love spending time here talking to you about the Lord, about Bible studies, about books that might be edifying to you all and help you in your walk with God. Thanks for watching. Stay blessed and bookmarked.